The discussion surrounding whether or not student athletes should be paid is one that's been had many times in recent years and has become kind of a hot button topic and has been at the forefront of all conversations surrounding college athletics, especially with the recent passage of a California bill allowing athletes to make money off of their own image and likeness, and with the announcement by the NCAA that as soon as the next calendar year, all student athletes will be able to make money off of their image and likeness in some form or fashion while retaining their eligibility as amateurs. Given all this information, I thought it would be fitting to talk about whether or not athletes should be paid for playing their individual sports at a collegiate level. So I'm going to be speaking about how I believe that they should be paid, and I'm going to be pulling resources from class lectures as well as our book and outside sources to try to back up my stance. I'll have three main points. The first of which being that I believe that paying students would be an incentive for them to pay and stay in school and finish their degrees. Secondly, I think that athletes being fairly compensated would be the right thing to do because it's a pay for play system. Like it's when you're working another job, you would get paid for it, just as these student athletes should get paid for playing. And lastly, I think that paying college athletes could help them in the future with financial responsibility by teaching them how to be fiscally responsible at a younger age. So my first point, an incentive to finish degrees, I think that it kind of sums itself up in the title. I think that it would keep students from pursuing their professional routes in their individual sports so quickly, and they may be more likely to stay in school and receive a degree. And that's important because according to some of our class lectures, about only 3% of all collegiate athletes ever become professionals in their individual sports. So that's obviously 97% of all the people who play collegiate athletics are not going to be a professional athlete. However, that doesn't mean that some of those people aren't going to leave early in pursuance of that. And if some of those people were to stay and receive their degree, then it would provide them with a cushion to fall back on, and they could have a career in something other than the sport in which they were pursuing. Secondly, fair compensation. I think paying the athletes would be a good decision because they make a whole lot of money for their institutions, the colleges that they play for. I think it would be the best thing to do because, like I said before, it's a fair pay for play. Just as if I were to go work a job, I would get paid for doing it, and there's nothing different between me going and mowing somebody's yard and somebody who's playing collegiate tennis, let's say. The best example of this would be Zion Williamson with Duke last year. Everybody knows how big of a star he was and how big of a draw he was to all of these games that Duke had. But last year, when he was playing for Duke, the average price of a ticket to a Duke basketball game was up 194% from the previous year when he wasn't there. So that's an astronomical increase. And sure, there were other players on the team that were popular, like R.J. Barrett, but if you break it down, it's most likely all because of him, if not most. So I think that it would be better to give him some sort of compensation for all the money that he made Duke. My last point would be financial responsibility. I think that this would be important because you could teach these athletes how to be fiscally responsible before they become entirely dependent on each paycheck. And what I mean by that is when you're still in college and you have that scholarship as an athlete, you can receive meals and tutoring and housing through the school, and you don't have to pay for that yourself. And you could have this extra money on the side that you're making for playing, and they could teach you how to budget that out and how to save responsibly, invest responsibly. So they could teach them some basic money management skills before they go out into the real world and are 100% dependent on their paycheck to paycheck. So in conclusion, I do believe that college athletes should be compensated for playing. However, it is up to the NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, to get that done because they are the governing body of all amateur athletics that are involved in some form or fashion with a college. So like a school like UK, any other Division I, Division II, Division III schools. So I believe that they should be paid, and that's what I think.